Following their victory within the jungles of Onderon, the Onderanian rebels made their way into the capital city of Isis to continue their battle against the separatist-backed government of their world. In order to inspire the people of Onderon and cripple the droid forces occupying their capital city, the rebels concocted a plan to attack various major pieces of infrastructure within the capital of Isis. Meanwhile, droid forces did the best they could to clamp down on any rebel activity in hopes of snuffing out the growing rebellion. To maximize the effectiveness of their strike, the rebels chose to attack key elements of the city's power grid, most notably a large power generation station near the center of the city. Unfortunately for the rebels, however, the separatists were well aware of the key target that this power generation site could be, and had heavily fortified it, adding a large reinforced wall with heavy steel doors. On top of that, it was guarded by a wide array of separatist infantry forces. Still, the rebels set about preparing for this attack, carrying out large reconnaissance missions to scout out the area and plan for their assault. They knew that to breach the wall they would need something heavier than any of the munitions they had in their possession, and thus the idea became to steal a separatist tank. The objectives of rebel forces in this engagement were to steal an armored assault tank from the occupying separatist forces, and then use that tank to carry out an assault against the power generation station. Meanwhile, the separatists sought to wipe out this attacking rebel force and protect their power generation station at all costs. The battle began a few blocks away from the power generation station, where the rebels carried out an ambush. After planting a vehicle laden with explosives in the center of the street, rebel forces moved to the dark shadows near the edges of alleyways and prepared to ambush a droid patrol moving through the area. Once the droid patrol had passed the vehicle, the explosives were detonated, and the central segment of the droid patrol was knocked out. The remaining elements of the droid patrol were then engaged with small arms by rebel infantry. This resulted in the destruction of the droid patrol, but not before they could call for help, as the rebels had planned. However, the first element of separatist reinforcements that had arrived were not planned for. A pair of destroyer droids, which happened to be in the area, were quickly redispatched to engage the rebels that were attacking this patrol. These destroyer droids moved in from behind the rebels and quickly set up and pinned the rebel forces down to small elements of cover scattered around the street. Taking advantage of skills they had learned from Republic teachers that had been sent to advise them on how to carry out guerrilla warfare, several elements of rebel infantry advanced around the side of the destroyer droids and carried out a flanking maneuver, rolling electromagnetic pulse grenades or droid poppers into their shields, knocking out one of the separatist infantry units. However, the other destroyer droid, realizing it was being attacked from behind, turned to engage the flanking adversaries, leaving its back open to a second assault on its rear, carried out by the forces that had initially been pinned down. With both destroyer droids now neutralized, the main body of separatist reinforcements began closing in on the position the rebels had taken. These separatist reinforcements included a single armored assault tank, as well as a handful of B-2 battle droids. Rebel forces quickly engaged the infantry, taking out a large portion, but not all, of the separatist infantry, opening up a path for two lone rebel soldiers to attempt to mount the tank and discharge droid poppers into the main pilot's hatch, as well as the commander's hatch at the top of the tank. With all droids on board dead and the tank slightly damaged from the electromagnetic pulse, the rebels turned their focus to the last remaining B-2 battle droids still in this formation. With the droids now destroyed, the tank now under rebel control, they began advancing on the power generator, unopposed as the darkness of night covered their advance. As rebel forces neared the wall that surrounded the electrical generation station, several elements of rebel infantry broke off from the group that were riding the armored assault tank and took up sniper positions in the nearby square. Using long-range small arms, they began suppressing the droids that had taken up defensive positions around the electrical generation complex. In response, the Separatists called all nearby droid patrols back to the square. However, the only one to respond in time was a group of 4 B-1 battle droids, which were quickly dispatched by the snipers that had taken up position in the square. It's around this time that the armored assault tank, now occupied by the rebels, made its way into the square and began engaging the droids that had taken up position in front of the electrical generation station. With the droid guards outside of the station now neutralized, the tank turned its main cannon to the large doors that enclosed the main entrance of the power station, firing a single heavy shell to breach the outer door, followed by a second shot to breach the inner door. However, with both doors now breached, the infantry inside, mainly consisting of commando droids, were able to join the fray. A small squad of commando droids made its way out and began engaging the rebel infantry surrounding the tank, but were neutralized in time for a third shot from the armored assault tank's main cannon to destroy the central piece of power infrastructure, causing a chain reaction that ultimately destroyed the power generation station. With the power generation station now knocked out, the power for the city of Isis went down, and the city was plunged into brief rebel-inspired chaos, where rebel forces were able to carry out light hit-and-run attacks under the cover of total darkness against a droid force that was increasingly short on power. While these attacks wouldn't end the separatist occupation of Onderon, it would be a massive hit to the competency of the commanders of the droid forces in place on Onderon at the time, and would lead to the series of events that ultimately did result in the end of the Onderanian Civil War. In the night that followed this attack, with total darkness falling over the city, the operations carried out by both rebel forces and civilian sympathizers would be a major victory for the Onderanian rebels. It would shatter the trust the people of Onderon had in the Onderanian government that was backed by the separatists to keep them safe, and would inspire those who thought about resisting into open revolt against their separatist-backed government. And that alone is enough for someone to consider the rebel assault on the power generator in Isis an astounding rebel victory. All of this, however, comes on the heels of an unsuccessful separatist attack against rebel forces encamped in the jungle. If you'd like to learn about what that assault was like, I'll leave a link in the upper right-hand corner to my battle analysis on that. And if you have any other engagements you'd like to see covered in future episodes of Battle Analysis and added to the archive, you can let me know down below in the comments. Last but not least, if you enjoyed this video, head down below, hit the like button, the subscribe button, and the bell icon so you get notified when I upload new videos. So for Sci-Fi Deep Dive, I'm Colin, and I will see you next time.